Alright, well, Thad aforehand asked to list the top 5 best bourbons that I've ever tasted. That's tough. I take my bourbon drinking pretty seriously. uh, Number one for sure, my favorite, all-time favorite anyway, is Maker's Mark. The Maker's Cask Strength is pretty good too. I'm not a big fan of the 46. It's just a little too sweet, a little too vanilla. A little too much actual vanilla extract in it. I just don't like super super sweet bourbons and rums and stuff like that. Number two, a little bit of a cheaper option too. It's Bullet Bourbon. Just good, smooth stuff. It's nothing too crazy different than really Makers. Just the regular Makers, just super super smooth. Eagle Rare is another good one that I like. That's more of a nostalgic taste than anything else. That was one of the first kind of like bourbons I branched out to that weren't, there wasn't like a bottle of Jack Daniels on the weekends in college. So that was the first kind of higher price stuff that I tried, and I don't know, it probably tastes like shit now after everything else I've tried, but it still has a place in my heart as a good beginner bourbon, a good beginner template for bourbon drinking. I actually got to try some of the George T. Stagg bourbon before. That's the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. That was some of the tastiest stuff I've ever had. The only problem is it's over $100 a bottle, so it's kind of tough to justify buying that over the $60 bottle of Maker's Mark. But it's still pretty good stuff if you can find a place that sells it. Speaking of Buffalo Trace, it's another great one. I think it's a little bit cheaper than Bullet, a little bit smoother, I think, too. It's kind of got that kind of papery, Knob Creeky aftertaste that I don't really like too much. But it's still pretty good, much better than Knob Creek, I think. As far as one that I really want to try, there is this company called Jefferson's that has a bourbon. I think it's called Ocean Aged, aged at sea or something like that. So basically, they put this bourbon on a boat and it traveled around the world in the barrels, so it's sloshing around. The purpose of it was that the kind of the waves of the ocean just kind of splashing all around, so there's more contact with the actual barrel with all of the bourbon that's in it. So I went around the world like 30 different ports, crossed the equator a bunch of times, and I'd love to try some of that stuff at some point. So there's my list.